Hello and welcome to our third video in the fraction series, and today we'll be looking at how to add and subtract fractions. So in the last lesson we looked at ordering fractions with the same denominator and ordering fractions with different denominators. So essentially ordering fractions with the same denominator means, let's say I give you a list of 4 fractions with all denominators of 5, for example. All you would need to do is to look at the numerator of each of the fractions and order them in ascending order from smallest to largest. That was how we would order fractions with the same denominator. And ordering fractions with different denominators was a little bit more tricky because we had to change, sometimes in order to do that we have to change all the fractions to have the same denominator, i.e. the method of finding equivalent fractions, and by doing that we would then be able to order the fractions because they have the same denominator. So if you remember from our last lesson, there were 2 questions, and I said that in the next lesson we will have one of the questions as our recap because of time constraints. So here is the question. So as a recap, we have to order these fractions from smallest to largest. So I'd like you to pause the video, and once you're done you can unpause and we'll go through the question together. Okay, so let's have a look at this question. So we have 4 fractions. We have 2 over 12, 3 over 6, 1 over 4, and 2/3. So if you recall, when we want to order fractions with that have different denominators, we need to find a way of getting these fractions to have the same denominator. And how do we do that? Well, we use the method of finding equivalent fractions. And how do we go about doing that? Well, we look at each of the fractions, each of the denominators, and ask ourselves, okay, what is the lowest common multiple of 12, 6, 4, and 3? And that lowest common multiple is what we will use to convert each fraction into a denominator of that common multiple. So that may sound a bit all over your head, but don't worry, we'll go through the question and hopefully it will make some sense as to what I am saying. So if we take 12, okay, let's look at all these fractions denominators: 12, 6, 4, and 3, and we want to find the lowest common multiple. So we have 12, so this is the 12 times table, 6 times table, 4 times table, and the 3 times table. So we have 12, 24, and 36, and obviously there's more numbers, but let's just list the first 3 multiples of each number to see if we can find any common multiples. So for 6 we have obviously 6, 12, and 18. 4 we have 4, 8, 12. And for 3 we have 3, 6, 9, and 12, and so on. So if we look carefully at our 4 list of multiples, we can see that 12 is common multiple of each of our numbers. So in other words, it appears in the 12 times table, obviously, the 6 times table, the 4 times table, and the 3 times table. And also it is the lowest number, which is a common multiple of all of these 4 numbers. So that means our LCM, or lowest common multiple, is 12. So that means we now have to convert each of these fractions into equivalent fractions with denominator of 12. So if we move on to a new page, so 2 over 12 already has denominator 12, so we don't need to convert this fraction into one that has denominator 12. But the rest of the fractions need to be converted because they don't have denominators of 12. So if we take 3 over 6 to start with, we have 3 over 6, and that's equal to some fraction with denominator 12. So we need to find what operation we do to our denominator to get from 6 to 12, and whatever that is, we must do to the top, our numerator. So we times by 2, because 6 times 2 is 12, and then that means we must do 3 multiplied by 2, which is 6. So 3 over 6 is equivalent to 6 over 12. Then our next fraction is 1 over 4, which is equal to some fraction over 12. So then we do 4 times 3, because 4 times 3 is 12, which means we must do the same to our numerator. So 1 times 3 is 3. And our last fraction, 2/3, is over some, equal to some fraction over 12. So 3 divided by or multiplied by what number gives us 12? Well, we multiply by 4, because 3 times 4 is 12, which then means we must do 2 times 4, which is 8. So we now have our equivalent fractions all done for us. We've now found them. So it then makes it easier for us to order these fractions from smallest to largest. I'm just gonna clear this up so we have some room. So two over 12 is stays the same. So 3 over 6 is the same as 6 over 12. A quarter is the same as 3 over 12. And 2 over 3, or 2/3, is the same as 8 over 12. And we still have this fraction as the same. So obviously we can now order the fractions because they now have all the same denominator. So all we do is look at the numerators and order them from smallest to largest, and that is how we would order them, these fractions from smallest to largest. So the smallest number between 2, 6, 3 and 8 would be 2. So our smallest fraction would be 2 over 12. I use a different colour to make the difference clear. Two over 12. Okay, so our next smallest would be what? Between 6, 3 and 8. 3 over 12. Because 2 is the smallest, then 3 comes after 2 as the next smallest. 6 and 8, which is the smallest? 6. 6 over 12. Because after 3 comes 6 as the next smallest. Which then leaves us with 8 over 12 as our largest, or because 8 is the largest number. So these fractions are now in order. So if you remember, 3 over 12 is the same as 1/4. 6 over 12 is the same as 3 over 6. And 8 over 12 is the same as 2/3. So we can rewrite our list as the fractions in ascending order are 2 over 12, 1/4, 3 over 6, and 2/3. So this is how we would order these fractions from smallest to largest. So moving on to the main topic of today's lesson is our learning objectives are to add and subtract fractions with the same denominator, and to know how to add and subtract fractions with different denominators. So if we want to add and subtract fractions with the same denominator, we just add or subtract the numerators. So it's a tiny bit similar to how we would order fractions with the same denominator in the case of we just compare the numerators of all the fractions. So this is a bit similar, it's just that we are adding the numerators or subtracting the numerators. So in our example here, we have a sum of 5 over 12 plus 4 over 12. So if we want to add fractions with the same denominator, we are just looking at the numerator and adding them together, and we keep the denominator the same. So i.e. 5 plus 4. So we've taken our numerator here of 5 and add 4, our numerator here. So 5 plus 4, and this is all over 12. And 5 plus 4 is 9. So our answer would be 9 over 12. So what we done was we added the numerators for both fractions together. So we took 5 plus 4, added them together, which gave us our answer of 9 over 12. And in a similar sense, if we wanted to subtract fractions with the same numerator, same denominator, we just subtract the numerators together. So another example here, we have 11 over 13 minus 4 over 13. So when we have 11 over 13 and minus 4 over 13, we need to subtract both numerators, which will give us our answer. So what we do is we take 11 minus 4. So 11 comes from the first fraction, numerator, and 4 comes from the second fraction's numerator. So we do 11 take away 4, and this is all over 13. And 11 take away 4 is 7. So our answer would be 7 over 13. So, quick recap: when you add and or subtract fractions with the same denominator, we just add or take away the numerators. So here we've done 5 plus 4 over 12, which gave us 9 over 12, and 11 take away 4 over 13 gave us 7 over 13. So it's very simple, fairly straightforward. And now it's your turn to have a go at some questions. So I'd like you to pause the video and have a go at these questions, and we'll have a look at them together. Okay, so if you look at the first question, we're asked to add 4 over 15, 6 over 15, and 3 over 15. So 4 over 15, 4 over 15 plus 6 over 15 plus 3 over 15. So again, all we do is add the numerators together because our denominators are the same. So we just add 4, 6, and 3 together, and this will be obviously over 15. We keep the denominator the same. So 4 plus 6 is 10, and 10 plus 3 is 13. So our answer to 4 over 15 plus 6 over 15 plus 3 over 15 is 13 over 15. And the second question, similar rule, we just take away in this case. So we have 12 over 16 minus 4 over 16. So 12 minus 4 over 16. Our answer would be a fraction over 16 because the numerators are the same. We keep the bottom number is the same, the denominators are the same. We just take away the numerators together. So we do 12 take away 4, which is 8, and that is all over 16. So our answer is 8 over 16. And this fraction could be simplified because, as in simplified down further, by highest common factors, or HCF for short. So between 8 and 16, we have a highest common factor of 8, because 8 divides into 8, obviously, and it also divides into 16. So if we divide 8 by itself, we get 1. And if we divide 8 by 16, we get 2. So we could also say our answer is a half. So 12 over 16 take away 4 over 16 is a half. Or you could still write it as 8 over 16. But to simplify down further, it still could be written down as 1/2. But either answers are valid or correct.